So how is it that 3 baby mice end up at church with my kids? Well, I'll tell you all about it. This is the story of 3 blind mice. Let's do this thing. Hey guys, Elizabeth, the curly-haired country gal here. Today I am thrilled to be staining and hopefully soon painting the swarm traps and maybe some of the hives that I got at Dr. Leo Shurashkin's horizontal hive natural beekeeping workshop that I was at in Kabul, Missouri. Now, my intention had been to be with the kids a whole bunch today, and I do hope to do that still, but everybody's kind of sick today, so it's turning into more of a movie day. So I figured I would go ahead and take this chance to catch you up on some crazy stories that have been going on here recently. So, this is the story of 3 blind mice. Alright, so the kids were helping me up at the compost to unload food boxes that we get from our local grocery store with expired food. We were catching up on a whole bunch of boxes that were from over winter, which I hadn't done anything with. So as we were going through the compost, I heard kind of a strange squeaking noise. So I told the kids, guys, be quiet. And we listened, and I just kept hearing this noise. And I go down next to one of the boxes by the pile, and you guessed it, there was a baby mouse under one of the boxes. It had fur, but it still had its eyes closed, so it was still pretty young. The kids were oohing and awing over it. They love animals. I told them that we wouldn't want to touch it because we would want the mama to be able to smell the babies if she was able to come back. So we left it alone and went back to work. Now, a few minutes later, I was about 3 or 4 feet away, and sure enough, I heard another squeaking noise. So I told the kids, stop, stop, stop. And we listened, and there was another squeaking noise. So we look around a little bit, and there was a second baby mouse on the ground in a little ditch, little rivet that's up there in between some of the food scraps. So there were 2 baby mice now. So we decided, okay, well, there were 2 of them, so I guess maybe we should put them together. I, with my gloved hands, went ahead and put the mice together. The kids already started talking about how they wanted to take care of it and help them to survive, because who knows, maybe the mama wasn't going to come back. Miss Dinkins caught her first mouse the other day, which we were thrilled about, but the kids were suddenly terrified that she had killed the baby mice's mom. So they were trying to think how they could help the mice, etc., etc. Now we kept going with our pile. We got to the bottom of the boxes for the food, the expired produce that we were working through, putting it in our compost, and I saw something kind of strange. It was like really, really finely shredded cloth and cardboard. The mama mouse had built a nest in the box of food scraps that we were tearing apart because we were putting it on our compost pile. Oops. And in the midst of finding the mama's nest, more squeaking, there was a 3rd baby mouse that we found actually in the nest. So again, we put all 3 mice together, we covered them with a box. The kids were very teary and weepy about it, not wanting the mice to die. So we talked a lot about how that's one of the things that happens when you live on a farm and on a homestead, is you see more death, and you see death more close up, especially the more animals you have. So we talked about that. The kids seemed okay. I told them that we could not try to take care of baby mice. We tried that once with a baby bird last year. I was the one who ended up having to take care of it. It still died. I wasn't going to do that again. So we got done with that project, and I needed to go back inside to teach another online Spanish class, which is my job. And I came back out later, and I walked with one of my kiddos to the mailbox and back. One of our other kids ran out from the barn where she had been playing for quite a while, and came up, and everybody wanted to go up to the compost pile again to see if the baby mice were still there. Sure, yeah, no problem. Let's go back up to the compost pile. And the mice were gone. So there was a lot of speculation. Maybe Miss Dinkins got them. Maybe the chickens found them and ate them. We didn't know, but the mice weren't there. One of my daughters wasn't too broken up about it, but the others were pretty sad. My son was happy that maybe Miss Dinkins had caught some more mice. Not super sad by any means. So that was the end of that story, right? No. Now, Now, a quick side note here is that my kids share 2 bunk beds in one room. And my daughter gets pretty upset when her siblings get into her bed, which makes sense. She's on the bottom, everybody can reach her stuff. And so we're trying to encourage them not to do that. And she got really upset this afternoon because her sister had gotten into her bed or had messed with one of her blankets or something. Okay, we talked about it. Sorry that happened. Let's not do that again. So it was time for Jared to take the kids to church on Wednesday nights like they normally do. So they got all packed up. They go. I stayed home to teach my last class of the day. So then that evening, after the kids were in bed, my husband came up to me with kind of a strange look on his face. So the first thing I said was, "Am I in trouble?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Oh, whew, okay." Then whatever it is, we're going to be fine. And he told me that Miss Jessica, one of our kids' teachers at church, came up to him that evening and had said to him, "Did you know your daughter brought 3 mice in her bag with her?" Yeah. So that same daughter who was happily playing in the barn all afternoon, eerily contentedly, actually knew exactly where the mice were, because during my class she went ahead and collected them and took them to the barn to take care of them. And then everything started making sense. So no wonder she was so upset that her sister had gotten into her bed, because after she had taken the mice to the barn, she brought the mice inside and put them in a container in her bed under a blanket. So she was very upset that her sister was messing with the blanket because the mice were underneath. And then she decided that she wanted to show her friends at church the mice, so she took them to church with her. So I found all this out from my daughter, who told me everything that happened. And at this point, everybody else is in bed. Jared didn't know all the ins and outs of what had happened with the mice that day, so they were actually in our mudroom at that point, in a container that our daughter had filled with rocks and leaves and all assortment of things to have a home for the mice. And he wasn't quite sure what to do, so we talked about it and we prayed about it. And, you know, we talked to our daughter. We acknowledged that she was trying to help and trying to save an animal, but she did disobey quite a few times along the way. So we did decide that night the mice were going to need to go back outside up to the orchard where we found them, and they weren't going to be touched again. She agreed, even though she was sad that meant that the mice would likely die. And we took the mice back up there, tried to make a cozy little home for them, and that was that for the night. So the end of the story is that the next day we did go back up with all of our children sincerely wondering where the mice had been, as opposed to knowing exactly where the mice were. And they were gone. No sign of them, so the kids are trying to take comfort in speculating that maybe the mama mouse came and retrieved them and took them to their new home. But in all likelihood, they were eaten by something. And that is the story of 3 blind mice. Hey, thanks so much for joining me as I tell you these stories, as I work on some projects. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video, can you just like it down below? Thanks.